GIX is the first exchange dedicated to the sustainable economy, and the only exchange that is organized as a public benefit corporation. We have a goal of promoting transparency and sustainability and helping investors understand who is greenwashing and who is not, and helping companies to find the capital that they need in order to make the sustainable transitions. Our focus today is on carbon markets, and particularly thinking creatively about how do we move from carbon markets version 1.0 to carbon markets version 2.0.
In the voluntary carbon credits markets, these are credits that are created and then purchased primarily by companies that want to use them in service of offsetting emissions as part of their voluntary commitments. And this is part of what I think makes this a tricky market, is that there are so many different kinds of projects that can create these sorts of credits, and they have many different features.
For every project, there's a different methodology, and you have to take into account the methodology. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the market.
There are so many different new kind of technologies. There are different ecosystems that you can create or protect, and just depending on the features of that project, it can become a bit bespoke. A lot of companies are saying we may even be working on reducing our emissions overall, but we want to act now too to be having an atmospheric impact by removing carbon.
If the house is on fire, you can't wait for the next generation technology to come into place.
Really, at the end of the day, when a lot of these companies are trying to price carbon, they're using what's called a shadow pricing mechanism, which is just applying a hypothetical number to what they believe their carbon costs are. But if you have every company applying their own hypothetical price, what is that price?
What you need is an answer to the chaos that we've been working with and trying to understand. And that is very specifically an efficient, regulated digital exchange that basically turns carbon into a financial asset that fits a company's normal operations. They know how to work under a regulated, safe, SEC managed marketplace, and that's really going to move the needle.
The most important thing, liquidity, which we don't have, but we need to take a step back and look at why we don't have that. It's the V in VCM, it's voluntary, right? So only companies who are big enough to have big commitments can come in and spend, who have big teams that can come in and do the very expensive due diligence. So you don't have a lot of buyers here, and of course, GIX is coming in to solve one of those problems.
A regulated exchange, it evens everything out and we know what we're getting.
So what we're talking about in creating an investable asset, you then get access to another pool of capital, which are institutional investors, pension funds, retail, etc. So that would then open up a completely new market where you would get your liquidity.
60% of retail investors said if they could own or trade a carbon credit, would they? And they said yes. So that is a huge, huge potential in the market.
What I think is interesting about throwing this to the market is that the market can solve these problems. I think in terms of bringing that trust and confidence to the market would be that you would be able to see prices. So right now, there's actually no one place where you can find the price of these OTC transactions. And what that does is it makes it really difficult to benchmark. If this credit sold for this, that might tell you what this other credit should sell for.
Wouldn't it make sense to have the market, the capital markets, price these?
The market is going to determine the actual value based on real data, real technology, and real information, and companies who are doing the right thing are going to benefit more, and companies that are not doing the right thing are going to have more pressure because of the disclosure, the transparency, and the ability for people to sort of say, why are you wasting all this? Let's get it together.
When you find a way for people to engage with them the way they engage with other securities, I think it makes it a lot easier. It makes sense to then sort of look at this carbon need and the investment needed there and marry that with global financial markets. And I think that will necessarily require the market infrastructure that we're seeing GIX talk about and other innovations that will help to leverage that global capital for those solutions.